Thank you all. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. We're going to get started here in just 2 minutes. So if you would bear with us, we're going to allow more people to fill the space and we're going to get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started in about 90 seconds. So a 90-second countdown, and we are going to hop into today's presentation, Networking Like a Professional. All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Welcome to our Sizzle and Shine series, Networking Like a Professional. For those of you that you may struggle when it comes to networking. My goal is that by the end of today's session, you will feel more comfortable and more confident when you step into rooms that you know you deserve to be in. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's session. Next slide, please. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for your commitment. Listen, I recognize that it is a big step. Anytime that we are facing professional vulnerabilities, it is not easy. And so I want to thank you for your commitment, taking time to spend with me this afternoon. Certainly you can be doing anything else, but you are here with me in this virtual space. And I thank you for that. And so I want you to think about one thing. Although you may not be a professional when it comes to networking at this moment, by the time you leave this workshop, it is my goal to equip you with the tools that you need to feel more comfortable and more confident when you walk into a room full of perfect strangers. So again, I recognize that this transition may not be easy, but here's the beauty of it. You don't have to travel this journey alone because I am going to be there with you every step of the way. So I want you to bury those old ways, specifically the ones that didn't produce fruit. Open your toolbox because I am going to give you some tools, again, to increase your confidence and your comfortability when you are in a room full of people that you may or may not know. Next slide, please. I am Laisha McDaniel. I am a success coach. I am a professional development maven. And most importantly, I am an educator. It is a pleasure again to join you on this journey. I've been in your shoes before. I've walked into rooms before and I felt uncomfortable when I know I had the skill set. And so, of course, we learn from our experiences. But one thing, again, that you will not be able to say is that you had to travel this journey alone. And so that's not going to be your narrative. I promise you, I have you covered. Remember to open your toolbox and prepare for me to drop those tools in that you need. We know the network opens doors to promotions. It opens doors for mentorship. And most importantly, job opportunities. Sometimes when you network, you may have access to job opportunities that may not publicly be advertised. And so your net worth is typically tied to your network. It's not always what you know, but sometimes it's who you know. And so when you think about the job market, 80% of jobs are filled via word of mouth. And so that's simply by activating your network. And so we're going to talk about what it even looks like to build a network, because for some of you, you may say, well, I don't have a network. And so if that is your story, no worries. Remember, I've got you covered. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some networking essentials. Next slide, please. So this is where it began for me. I remember specifically, and I will say this, when you are in the process of networking, specifically when you want to establish a solid and a core network, you have to be very, very strategic. And so I remember when I decided to get very strategic, when I decided to strengthen my network, I had to think about what were some of the things that I enjoy doing, because I wanted to find commonalities with other professionals and use that as a starting point. So I'm an avid coffee lover. And so what I decided to do was, there were some people currently in my network that maybe I did not know. And so what I did was I reached out to people and I offered them a coffee date. Again, I'm an avid coffee lover. And so I reached out to some professionals. Again, it was my way to kind of break the ice over coffee. And in some instances, I even did virtual coffee sessions. So there were some connections that perhaps weren't local, but I still wanted to connect to them. I reached for them and I wanted to connect for them. And so I needed to make it possible. And so for me, I established 200 plus coffee dates in 1 year. And as a result of that, I was able to establish 1,200 plus connections in my network. And it was organic. So whether I directly connected with someone, whether they connected me to someone, again, this was the legwork that I had to do, because I recognized at that time my network was it was valuable, but certainly it could have been of more value. And so I needed to sharpen my pencil. I needed to get more strategic. It was important that I change my mindset. When I think about success, I think that there are 3 key ingredients. You have to have the right mindset. That's the most important thing. Oftentimes, we stop ourselves. We self-sabotage. We get in our own heads. We get in our own way. And so I had to have the right mindset. And my mindset said that I needed to be open. I needed to be open to change. I needed to be open to some things that may be a little uncomfortable for me, because one thing's for certain and 2 things for sure. Complacency will definitely birth failure. And so I wanted some things a little bit differently in my life. And so I had to position myself to a different mindset. So again, I was very strategic. And I established over 200 coffee dates. And as a result of those 200 coffee dates, I was able to establish 1,200 plus organic connections. And during those coffee dates, some of you may say, well, what did you talk about? It was that time for me to showcase some of my best skills, talk about my areas of proficiency, but I also came with the mindset that it wasn't just about a take. I also wanted to show how our relationship could be mutually beneficial, because relationships, as we know, they work 2 ways. It's not just about the take, it's about the give and the take. And so specifically with connections that were new for me, I wanted to make it very clear that, listen, I want our relationship to be mutually beneficial. And so here are the things that I can do. Here are my strengths. And so perhaps some of my strengths may create some opportunities. And certainly if there's an opportunity for me to assist you in any capacity that I can, I'm willing to do it. And so a part of that, again, with people that did not know me, I had to walk through some of my accomplishments so that I could set the grounding for who I was, because for some people, I was connected by somebody else. And so it was an opportunity for them to get to know me. So I would share my background. I was able to highlight some of my professional accomplishments. And most importantly, I was able to speak about the things that I was passionate about. And for some of these people, I had done my research. And so for some, there were some commonalities that I had. And so I was able to leverage the commonalities that I shared with those individuals and say, hey, I did some research on you and I recognize that here's some of the things that you love. And again, I was able to share some of my success stories. And so one thing I will say, just before we get into the thick of things this afternoon, when you think about a relationship, typically relationships are successful when you have 2 people that are equally vested, when you have 2 people that are equally interested. And for that reason, it was important with every connection that I established. I wanted them to know that I want our relationship to be mutually beneficial. I want you to glean some things just as I'm able to glean some things from you. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about some common frustrations when it comes to networking. We're going to talk about the top 3 networking fears, some rules of networking, and an elevator pitch. So some of you may be familiar with an elevator pitch. And for those of you that don't, no worries, we're definitely going to cover that today. We're also going to talk about the value of professional networking. So some of you may have heard about networking before, but you really don't understand the impact and, most importantly, what's in it for you. So we're going to cover that this afternoon. We're going to talk about 5 ways you can benefit from your network. We're going to talk about the ABCs of networking. And for those of you that are on LinkedIn, I want you to know that LinkedIn is a networking mecca. And so if you have not activated your LinkedIn powers, again, by the end of today's workshop, my hope is that you will start to activate your LinkedIn profile as you have never done it before. I'm also, for those of you that are attending today's session, at the end of our workshop, I am going to share with you my email address, because as a gift for you attending today's session, I am going to send you 5 pre-scripts. We're going to call them scripts. 5 messages that you can send to a potential prospect on LinkedIn. So I'm going to do the work for you. I'm going to give you these messages, and literally all you have to do, copy and paste it, hit send. And then I'm going to share some networking resources with you. We're going to talk about social networking events, and then we're going to close today out with how you can build your professional network. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about some of the fears and frustrations that professionals experience when it's time to step into a room of people that you may not even know. Next slide, please. So some common frustrations, and by the way, you aren't alone. So did you know that 85% of jobs are filled via your professional network? 41% of networkers want to network more frequently, but they just don't have the time to do so. And 1 in 4 of professionals, they don't network at all. And only 11% of LinkedIn users have more than 100 people in their network. Talk about some interesting statistics. So when you look at those top 4 common frustrations, which of those apply to you? And if they apply to you, again, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about how to move past those. Which one of those apply to you? Okay. So let's talk about the rules of networking. Remember, it's so important for you to put your best foot forward. You got to put your best foot forward. It is so important. Remember, these are people that you may not possibly know. And so it's so important for you to put your best foot forward. First impressions, as you know, those are the things that people recognize. Those are the things that they remember. And so when you're putting yourself in front of people that you don't know, you definitely want to make sure that you leave a lasting impression. When you're meeting with people, I always say there's an art to listening, and active listening requires you to listen without speaking. Some of us, sometimes we listen, but when we listen, we already have a response prepared in our minds. And we want to sometimes finish the thought because we're so passionate about what the other person has to say. But sometimes you have to soak in the information that you're receiving. And you have to listen to hear opposed to listening to speak. So it's important that when you network, you're listening and you're learning and you're observing. When you're meeting with people that you don't know, do your homework and do your research so that you can prepare some questions. Sometimes people want to feel appreciated for the time that they are giving you, specifically when you're dealing with someone that's very limited in time. So make them feel appreciated. Do a little homework. LinkedIn is a great resource. We know Uncle Google is also a great resource, but do your homework on this person. Read a little bit about their background. And certainly if there is something that you have some questions on, these are things when you have your personal meeting with this person, whether it's an in-person meeting, whether it's a virtual meeting, those questions that you can prepare, you can now seek to gain clarity. I'm telling you, it'll go a long way when a person recognizes it, that you've put forth effort to meeting with them. And then follow up with every conversation that you have. Remember, relationships have to be nurtured and they have to be watered. So your follow-up is going to be key. And you can set the expectation at the end of every conversation that you have by simply saying, I love to follow up with you in the next 30 days. I love to follow up with you within the next 45 days. And if you want to, you can go ahead and you can schedule the next meeting from your phone. So go ahead and get something on the calendar. Again, you want to make sure this person understands that you respect their time, that you appreciate their time, and again, that you're vested in this relationship that you're trying to cultivate. Don't be timid. Don't be timid. And I recognize sometimes that is easier said than done. But remember, this is about you. And it's about how you can take your career to the next level. That statistic that I just shared on the previous screen, 85% of jobs are filled via word of mouth. And so that simply means that you may have to tap into your network. For some of you, you may have to establish and build a network. And for some of us, it's simply about activating what's already existing. So don't be timid. Don't be shy. Remember, this is for you, and you always have to think about the end result in mind. You want to go into networking with strategy. You want to think about what is it that I'm trying to accomplish with this networking that I'm doing? What am I trying to accomplish in this strategic, in this strategic building, this strategic planning that I'm doing? Again, prepare those questions, do your research. And even in your research, there may be some things that still remain uncertain or unclear to you. And be that as it may, that's why I am recommending that you prepare questions so that when you sit in front of that individual, you can ask questions, and you can even say, I took the time to do a little research and I came across this information, but if you can help me to better understand, or if you can deepen this, again, it goes a long way when a person knows that you've taken the time, you've done your research. So again, don't be afraid to ask questions. And listen, don't be overzealous, and it's okay to be don't be overzealous, and don't be self-promoting. It's nothing wrong with you explaining to someone that you don't know or a new relationship who you are, but you want to make sure that you don't go too far, because certainly as you continue to build and cultivate a relationship, this person will get to know more and more about you. So you don't want to come off too overpowering in the beginning. You kind of want to spread it out over time. Next slide, please. So fear number one, the perfection plague. Oftentimes, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, sometimes we stand in our own way. Sometimes we self-sabotage. And remember, you're human. You don't have to be perfect. And so when you're having a conversation with someone, it's okay if you stammer over your words. Anxiety is normal for people that are meeting new people. And the more that you do this, the more that you network, the more confident that you'll become over time, the more comfortable you'll become over time. If you look at that second bullet, practice is going to make perfect. So you'll notice your first couple interactions, specifically with people that you're meeting for the first time, it may feel uncomfortable. And guess what? That's completely normal. And so don't focus on perfection, right? Don't focus on perfection. I think what's most important is that you focus on authenticity. When you're sitting across from someone, they can feel your energy. People can feel when you may be a little nervous, and guess what? They'll probably extend you some grace in the process. And so remember, the more that you do it, the better that you'll become. And you have to figure out what style works for you. When you're sitting in front of people that you may not know, what style do you want to develop? And that is what you're going to practice making better. Remember, you always want to stay in learning mode. Remember, going back to listening, we want to make sure that we're listening to hear opposed to listening to respond. And allow yourself to make some mistakes. It's okay. Remember to practice self-compassion and to practice grace during this entire process. You're going to make mistakes. In fact, the person that you're sitting from, they've made mistakes. And even in your conversation, depending on the vibe of the conversation, they may feel comfortable sharing transparency and candor and telling you where they've made mistakes professionally. And most importantly, they're sharing those stories with you so that you don't repeat the same mistake. So remember, you're human. You're not perfect. Next slide, please. What if I'm told no? And that's really a thing. Don't take it personal, because remember, no is not always a personal rejection, or it's not always an attack on who you are as an individual. Sometimes no means the time is not right. And sometimes, unbeknownst to us, we think we're ready, but we're really not ready. And sometimes a no is your protection. It's what's saving you from embarrassment. It's saving you from something you may not undo. So remember, no is not always personal rejection. It's not always an attack. Look at it as sometimes my no can serve as a protection. Sometimes no gives you the opportunity to do some self-reflection, because sometimes we can have an overinflated image of who we are, but when we need to just kind of reel it back in just to do some self-reflection so that we can present the best versions of ourselves. Sometimes we have to create the awareness within ourselves so that we're able to do the work. We're able to identify the gaps or the deficiencies that we have, because remember, we want to put our best foot forward. And so sometimes that no simply says you're not there just yet. And so here are some things that you need to work on. And so again, if it's no, don't take it personal. And guess what? No one likes rejection, but I want you to, again, change your mindset to think about things a little bit differently. It's not rejection. It's my protection. And then when you're talking to a professional, even if you get the no, ask if it's okay for you to circle back later. Because guess what? Delay doesn't mean deny. And although the time is not right at this moment, perhaps it can be ideal 6 months from now, maybe even 3 months from now. So don't take it as a bruise to your ego. Be thankful that they told you no, because they may have saved you from something. Again, you may have faced embarrassment later. And so again, ask, is it okay if we circle back in 6 months from now, or at a later time when you feel the opportunity may be more fitting for you? And again, foster connections during future meetings, because that's going to be important too. Next slide, please. There's also this fear of being too pushy. And so during your connections, you want to make sure that you are enthusiastic, right? Because enthusiasm is an attractive quality to have. And sometimes when you're too enthusiastic, sometimes that can be misconstrued. For some of us, we're very high energy. We're very passionate. And sometimes those qualities can be misconstrued for something that we're absolutely not. So it's all about finding your perfect balance. It's all about finding the perfect balance. You also want to avoid deterrence when you're networking too. So avoid the pity party, right? You're not coming here for a charity case. You're coming to make some connections. Remember, networking is about being mutually beneficial. And so when the relationship is mutually beneficial, there's no need for you to throw pity out there, because you have something to offer, just like there's something that you want to receive. Certainly, you're not here out of desperation. Again, remember, you have value to add to the relationship. And so this relationship is going to be equally yoked. It's not just about you here to take, which is why when it's so important for you to identify your skills and your passions. And for some of us, we have to practice those things because we're so multifaceted. We're great at a lot of different things. But again, we don't want to overwhelm somebody too much in the beginning. So you want to think about the things that maybe you are good at. What are some of the things that you want to hone in on? And so those are the things that you're going to share. And remember, over time, those individuals will learn how great you are. You don't have to overpower them so much in the beginning. It's all about finding your balance. And then last but not least, you want to focus on noticing the impact that you have with others. And so you can certainly read a room without a person ever having to open their mouth. So notice their posture, notice their nonverbal behavior. Sometimes they may just come out and tell you, I think that you're a really dope person. But sometimes their nonverbal behaviors will tell you the exact same thing. They're giving you eye contact. They definitely seem interested. They sit up. Their posture will be very telling. So these are things that you definitely should be observant of. Next slide, please. Again, complacency births failures. It was when I sharpened my pencil and I decided to be strategic so that I could really get in my bag. And it was 200 plus coffee dates that literally changed the trajectory of my career. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the elevator pitch. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with an elevator pitch, it literally is your story, but it's an abbreviated version of who you are. So think about if we were to let's do a little practicing here. So if we were getting on an elevator and we were on the ground floor and we were going to go to the 99th floor with no stops in between. And so it may take us 45 seconds to get to the 99th floor. By the time we get off the elevator, the individual with whom we're in the elevator with, they're going to know our names, they're going to know what we do, and they're going to know something that we're passionate about. Most importantly, when you share your elevator pitch, we want to leave them so intrigued that they want to continue to connect with us as we move forward. So again, they know your name, they know what you do, they know something that you're passionate about. And the way that you describe that to them in that 45 seconds, are so intrigued with you that they want to connect with you again. So remember, it's important that you do your homework and crafting an elevator pitch to speak about yourself and to do those 3 things that I described in 45 seconds. It's not easy. So you have to do your homework and you have to practice. And remember, when you recite or when you tell your elevator pitch to someone, you always have to think, what is my goal? What is the reason that I'm doing this? So that means you got to get into your strategy bag. You have to be strategic. You got to plan the work so that you can work the plan. Keep that in mind. And you know what they say, when you stay ready, then you never have to get ready. Next slide, please. So throughout this workshop, you to know that there are going to be some takeaways that I want you to do. So keep in mind, so here's a little homework for you. I want you to identify your current fears and your frustrations. And if you need to take a picture of the screen, pull out your phone and take a picture of the screen. But I want you to identify what are your current fears and your frustrations, specifically when it comes to networking. I want you to write them out. And then I want you to write a proposed solution for each of those things. Most importantly, how are you going to overcome those fears and frustrations? Then I want you to write an elevator pitch. Remember, keep in mind, what's my name? What do I do? Something that I'm passionate about. And you're going to describe that, and you're going to practice doing that fluently within 45 seconds. So I want you to get your timers out. We're not going to do it right now. This is homework. So this is something that you're going to do. And then I want you to think about, how can you help a potential prospect? So we spoke about networking being mutually beneficial. So oftentimes when you're strategic and you're connecting with someone, they have something that you need or something that you want. But you have to think about, out of the skills that I possess, out of the passions that I currently have, what is it that I can offer in exchange to this individual? Because you want to make it clear that I'm not here just for the take. I'm equally valued, and I also have something to give as well. Next slide, please. If you would do me a favor, if you would enlarge the screen for me. Perfect. So now we're going to talk about the value of networking. Next slide, please. So here's some more networking facts and how you're going to make it work for you. So for those of you that are on social media, followers don't build careers, just so you know that. Relationships, that's what will build a career. So I want you to not so necessarily spend time about how many people you can have in your network, because it's not always about the quantity. Sometimes it's about the quality. I'd rather have 4 solid people in my network than have 100 people that absolutely have no value to me. And so again, it's all about the strategy. When you're thinking about building your network, you want to think about the people that you essentially have in your cabinet. So again, when you're thinking about social media, when you're thinking about connecting on LinkedIn, it's not just about having a ton of followers. You want to think about quality followers, people that can help you, people that will be beneficial to your network. And networking 2.0, you want to make it matter for your life as well as your career. That's important. Networking is a game changer. Next slide, please. So professional networking. So again, it is an essential part of your job search. Oftentimes, job seekers, they run to the job board. That's the first thing that they do, whether they're looking for a job or whether they've been displaced from their job, whether they were laid off and voluntarily separated. Oftentimes, job seekers, the first thing that they do, they hop on LinkedIn, they hop on Indeed, they hop on Glassdoor, they run to the job board. That's the first thing that they do. I'm here to tell you that I've been working 20 plus years. And in my 20 plus years of working, I've only had to consult a job board twice, because every other job that I've had, I was able to tap into my network I was able to put a clarion call out to say, listen, I'm currently in the market and I'm seeking employment. And the value of my network definitely came to my rescue. They were able to share opportunities literally where I was choosing which opportunity that I wanted to move forward with. So again, there's value in your network. You want to make sure that you have a well-established network, because guess what? They are going to be an important part of your life. And not just when you need a job, right? You're going to find as you climb the corporate ladder and as you aspire to take your career upward, having a solid network is going to be critical. And so again, it's about forming the right connections. It's about you being strategic, and it's about connecting to people who are going to respond to you in ways that you need them to respond to you. And it only happens when you do the outreach. It happens when you connect paths with individuals who share the same professional values as you do. Next slide, please. So 5 ways to utilize your current networks. So again, if there are new career opportunities that you'd like to embark on, that's a way you can utilize your network. Again, you can utilize your network for access to job opportunities that may not be listed on a job board. Use your network to build your confidence. Use your network to share knowledge. Remember, it's about mutual. This is mutually beneficial. It's not just about you taking, but what can you put out as well? And then again, you want to make sure that you develop long-lasting relationship that you're able to water and nurture. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the ABCs of professional networking. Again, as I mentioned, networking is going to be an essential part of your job search. Strong professional connections can provide referrals, they can provide recommendations, and that gives you a competitive advantage when it comes to making a hiring decision. 85% of jobs are never even advertised. They're filled by word of mouth. So in other words, people have activated their network to find out whom in their network knows someone that may be hiring or may be hiring for the role that I'm currently looking for. Again, it's not always what you know, but sometimes who you know is more important. And so take advantage of professional associations, get involved, attend professional networking events, attend job fairs. These are great resources for you. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. LinkedIn, as I mentioned, it is your networking mecca. You have over 900 million users. And so LinkedIn offers a huge opportunity for you to connect with million people across the globe, not just local in your own city. Because someone that can change the trajectory of your career, they may be on a separate coast. And so again, that's the beauty about LinkedIn. You can connect with other users across the world. So don't limit yourself. When you request people, respond to people, and you also make sure ask yourself, what can I offer in return? Next slide, please. So when you are crafting your message, so when you're on LinkedIn, and remember, for those of you that are attending, I'm going to share my email address with you so that I can send you these 5 messages that you can send to a potential prospect. But when you're sending a message, I want you guys to keep these 4 things in mind. You want to make sure that your messaging is polite. You want to make sure that your message is pertinent and that is personalized, because no one wants to feel like they're receiving a message that is a copy and paste of something that you sent to maybe 20 other people. And of course, you want to make sure that you want to keep things professional. When you think about your personal brand, it's important that you build your personal brand, especially when it comes to developing a strong professional network, because it's going to do a couple different things. Number one, it's going to increase your visibility, but it also increases your credibility in your respective industry. You want to be known as being knowledgeable. You also want to be known as being resourceful. So again, when you think about how can this relationship be mutually beneficial, you want to think about how you can be resourceful and how you can position yourself as a thought leader. Next slide, please. So 5 potential prospects, and these are the 5 different custom messages that I'm going to send. Perhaps it's a mutual connection that you share on LinkedIn. Maybe you're responding to a recent post, and so you're using that as an opportunity to slide in someone's DM. Maybe it's someone that you met recently at a professional network, and timing is everything. So don't allow too much time to go by. I would say at most 48 hours if you've connected with someone at that event. It could be a person that you professionally admire. You've never met them before, but now is your chance and you want to reach out to them. Or maybe you want to reach out to a recruiter because you're ready to enter the job market. So again, I have 5 custom messages that you can send these individuals that you see on the screen. I'm going to share my email address. So again, that you can connect with me and I'll share those resources with you. Next slide, please. So some homework here. I want you to set up a LinkedIn account, whether it's, and I want you to do a premium account because there's more functionality. Some of you have free accounts and there's nothing wrong with a free account, but certainly if you're really ready to change the trajectory of your job search and you're really ready to beef that thing up, I want you to upgrade your account to a premium account. $40 a month, and when I tell you it's so well worth it, it is. In addition to that, I want you to identify 5 different people that you can connect with on LinkedIn. And then again, I am going to send you 5 custom messages. So again, more than half the work is done for you because I'm going to send the message for you. Literally, you're going to copy and paste it and send it to 5 prospects that you identified. Next slide, please. And then the last thing we're going to talk about are some networking resources. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So where can you find people to network? Of course, we know LinkedIn is a great resource. Again, over 900 million users. Meetup is another great resource. For those of you unfamiliar with Meetup, literally you have small social circles, and not all the time small, but those social circles are based on interest. They could be professional interests. They can be personal interests. Typically, these are people that are local to you. So if for some of you, you're thinking about relocating and you have some anxiety because you're starting over, you can literally go on meetup.com and you can connect with other professionals that are in the similar job industry as you, or maybe you guys share similar personal interests. Again, I would encourage you to attend local networking events in your area. Eventbrite is a great space for you to literally type in where you live geographically and see the events that are local in your area. Job fairs, again, great networking opportunities because you have the opportunity to network with other job seekers. So again, you get to meet other people that are in the same position as you. So remember, you're not in this alone. You get to meet with employers, have some personal conversations that you may not be able to do if you were just submitting your resume online. And volunteering is a great way for you to also network. So again, these are some great networking resources: LinkedIn, Meetup, attending local networking events, go to some job fairs, and again, don't forget to volunteer. Next slide, please. Social networking. We know that there is power in networking and online, obviously because of the worldwide connectivity. What I love about networking online is that it's easy and it's an instant connection. You know, it's not like you have to set up a date, you have to go anywhere. So social networking online is very convenient. It's fun. You get to enjoy it. Sometimes there can be information overload and it can be a little overwhelming. And a lot of times some of us fall victim to social peer pressure, but don't do that. Don't allow someone else's success to dim your light, because remember, your path and your journey is intended for you. And so what somebody else did, they could have did it in 6 months. And if it took you 18 months, that's okay. Because guess what? In that 18 months, you learned some lessons along the way that will allow you to sustain the career. So don't allow the social pressures of other successes to dim where you are. You're going to get there, and you're going to get there in your time and when it's right for you. Next slide, please. So when it comes to networking events, you can do breakfast events. Certain industries, they have industry-specific networking events. Sometimes you'll even find roundtable events. Happy hours are great networking opportunities, but I would encourage you to be careful with the drinking. Sometimes People drink liquid courage and they get too comfortable. So just be mindful that you are still in a professional setting. And if you are a member of LinkedIn, they actually have what's called groups. So literally you can type in an interest, you can type in a skill in the search bar, and literally you can click on the word groups and it will show you groups that are of that same interest. So I would also encourage you to get involved in some professional LinkedIn groups. Next slide, please. So how to build a professional network. So first things first, you have to prioritize your objectives. Remember, it's all about being strategic. So set your strategy. When you're connecting with other people, find common ground, because again, you can use that for icebreaker conversations. So find commonalities between you and that individual. Think about some people that you've already impressed and think about what were some of the impressionable skills that you had or some of the most impressionable attributes that you had with those individuals. Sometimes you have to pay things forward, and that's important too. Remember, relationships should be mutually beneficial, and it's not just about what you can receive. Don't overlook your current job. Sometimes you can connect with people in your organization and they may be outside of your department. So don't feel because you work there, they can't be a valuable asset to your network. So definitely you already have an established connection because you are an employee. So again, there may be some other individuals in different departments that you want to connect there. So use your job as a resource as well. And remember, put yourself in front of people that you want to meet. It's totally possible. But remember, you have to plan the work so that you can work the plan. Next slide, please. So here, I want you to determine some local networks, some local networking events or job fairs that are upcoming that you will not want to, that you will attend. So over the next 180 days, so that's 6 months. So over the next 6 months, I want you to determine 3 events that you're going to volunteer at. And by the way, Touch Gift Foundation is a phenomenal partner. So definitely, I want you guys to reach out to them and see how you can help them. They have put on an amazing series and they continue to share resources with those of you specifically that are in the market looking for a job. So that previous slide said that sometimes we have to pay it forward. So again, connect with Touch Gift Foundation to see how you can be a volunteer. Create a consistent networking schedule. Remember, you have to consistently do this. That's the only way to get great at something. You have to master consistency. Anything that you're inconsistent with will not yield you the results that you're looking for. And maximize as many professional networking connections as you can. Next slide, please. Final thoughts. It's important that you make a lasting impression. And so networking is a great way for you to sell yourself to a future employer. As you've learned, it's more than just a job board. It's more than LinkedIn. You have to network. In fact, you should network first before you even consult a job board. Certainly, the more information you know about a person, it definitely makes for a less awkward conversation. Sometimes things are awkward because we just don't know. So you definitely want to make sure when you're connecting with someone that you're prepared for the conversation. Prepare those questions that, again, that's going to come from you doing your homework. And remember, you want to make sure, I cannot emphasize this enough, you want to make sure that the relationship is mutually beneficial. Next slide. So again, I want you guys to learn with us. Professional development is a journey that never, ever, ever ends. And so successful professionals will tell you that they continuously learned, they were continuously training, and it was invaluable to their success. And so I want you to visit my website. But as I promised, I am going to share my email address. So it is Laisha, as you can see on the screen, Laisha, Laisha at LLF-Consulting.com. And I literally want you to send me an email and just say, hey, I attended the Building a Professional Village Network workshop. And I want you to send me those 5 custom messages that you have. All right. It has been a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the next workshop. You guys have a great day. Thank you.